Hello and welcome to chapter 30 of our journey through Wuthering Heights. We're going very near the end now, so hopefully you've been enjoying this journey. If this is your first video, go back, look at the others. There's plenty of them. Well, I say plenty of them. There's 29 before this one. So don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, all of those great things that we know and love. And without further ado, let's continue into chapter 30. And if you remember, we had the situation where Heathcliff has taken full advantage of Edgar Linton's death, and he's forced young Catherine now has to live at the Heights with Linton Heathcliff and Heathcliff himself and Joseph and Zillah and all those fun people of Wuthering Heights. And Bronte again showing Heathcliff's full villainous credentials because he's coerced Catherine to go and live at the Heights with him, and it's a pretty dire situation. That's where we arrive here. And this is the last chapter that concerns the story. So we've had Lockwood has been told this story by Nellie. So this is actually the last chapter, which is part of this internal narration here. And then it goes back to the frame narration. So interesting times ahead. So we have Nellie has paid a visit to the Heights and she's not seen her since she left. She's talking about young Catherine there as well. So we're really getting right up to date now with the actual events. These are really like recent events now. Then about Joseph there, he said Mrs. Linton was thrang and the master was not in. I've highlighted that because I don't actually know what that means. Again, it doesn't matter about Joseph. It's local dialect. It adds to the sense of inhospitality as well. And again, yeah, we've said all about that old grumpy old Joseph before as well, haven't we? But yeah, put in the comments if you know what thrang is. But I haven't been able to find it. But let me know if you can find out what thrang is. I like to imagine that it's Joseph taking up heavy metal guitar playing, but I don't think that's definitely, well, that's definitely not what it is, but it's fun to imagine that just for a second. Zillah has told me something the way they go on, I should hardly know who is dead and who living. So we've got another, Zillah is another sub-narrator as well, isn't she, actually? So we get Zillah telling us about things that are happening that Nellie's not seeing because Nellie was told not to go up there. She doesn't go up to Wuthering Heights. She's not working up at Wuthering Heights. Then Mr. Heathcliff told her to follow her own business and let his daughter-in-law look after herself, and Zillah winningly acquiesced, being a narrow-minded, selfish woman. So Nellie doesn't pull any punches in terms of what she thinks about Zillah. Zillah, I think, again, Bronte frames Zillah as a more ordinary servant, where Nellie is a much more exceptional servant as a character. Remember that she's had time to do it as well. She's read every English language book in Edgar Linton's library. She's not been able to read the Greek and the Latin because she's not educated formally in the style of the time, and women wouldn't be taught that anyway. They wouldn't be taught Greek and Latin. But she's self-educated, and that's how Bronte justifies the amazing level of detail that Nellie can go into, and she's very articulate as well. So Nellie is this combination of local knowledge, this kind of female wisdom that she has as well. There's a kind of maternal quality to her, but she's also this independence and intelligence and perception about Nellie as well. So I thought I'd talk a bit about her as it's the last chapter, of her narration via Lockwood, as it always has been. But anyway, so Zillah is, she has a cool name, but beyond that, she's not a very nice person. I had a long talk with Zillah about 6 weeks ago, a little before you came. One day when we foregathered on the moor, and this is what she told me. So look, now we're up to this point. It's only 6 weeks. Lockwood is being told things by Nellie that only happened 6 weeks ago. So we're really up to date now. Well, almost 6 weeks, almost. Then while the master and Earnshaw were at breakfast, she means Hareton there, this is Zillah as well, she entered the house and asked all in a quiver if the doctor might be sent for. Her cousin was very ill. But because Heathcliff is such a villain, he doesn't want to pay for the doctor. And of course, context-wise, in that era, in the era of the novel, it's 1804, One is the when Lockwood arrives. It was written later than that, obviously, but in the era that the novel's set in, and for a long time after, that healthcare wouldn't be free. Healthcare in Britain, obviously NHS, we have that, but that wasn't invented until much, much later. And in this era, the doctor, it was all you had to pay for. So Heathcliff is not willing to even pay a farthing, and a farthing is a really low amount of money, as you could probably guess. It's a low coinage, low value coin. "Walk out of the room," cried the master, "and let me never hear a word more about him. None here care what becomes of him. If you do, act the nurse. If you do not, lock him up and leave him." So we have any sympathy that we might have had for Heathcliff at the end of the last chapter, I think, is dispelled here, because he is really cruel to his son. He's refusing medical care. He doesn't care about him at all. Heathcliff has got everything he wants, or almost everything he wants, and when his son dies, he has then got control of all the property, all of the money, and he's got revenge really on the Lintons like that. But Heathcliff is never satisfied, obviously, because it's Heathcliff. Then she began to bother me. Zillah is very selfish. I said I'd had enough plague with the tiresome thing. So very similar to how Heathcliff was dehumanised and turned into an object and referred to as it, Linton Heathcliff is referred to as a thing here as well. And hers was to wait on Linton. Miss Heathcliff bid me leave that labour to her. So again, Linton Heathcliff is very ill. He's on the way out. He's not getting medical assistance. Catherine, who is a good person, has got compassion for him and has grown to love him. And he did redeem himself when he helped her escape. He has stood up to Heathcliff a bit, but of course as much as he can, because he's very frail. She sometimes came into the kitchen all wildered like, and looked as if she would fain beg assistance. But I was not going to disobey the master. I never dare disobey him, Mrs. Dean, and though I thought it wrong that Kenneth should not be sent for, it was no concern of mine either to advise or complain. So Bronte depicts Zillah as a very cowardly, selfish person. Even though she knows what's right, she doesn't do anything about it. She doesn't even stand up to Heathcliff, or she could choose to leave and work somewhere else, surely. You know, she's cowardly. Once or twice after we'd gone to bed, I'd happened to open my door again and seen her sitting crying on the stairs top, and then I've shut myself in quick for fear of being moved to interfere. I did pity her then, I'm sure. Still, I didn't wish to lose my place, you know. She's just thinking of her job. Zillah is not particularly nice. But then you could say it's this toxic environment of Wuthering Heights makes people like it, because it's like nature and it makes people like animals, makes them selfish. Maybe that's what it is, and maybe that's the point of Zillah's selfishness, is reflecting that, of course. And that's deliberate by Bronte. We've talked about the importance of settings. So Catherine would say, "Tell Mr. Heathcliff that his son is dying. I'm sure he is this time. Get up instantly and tell him." So there's a bell that rings. The only bell we have put up for the purpose for Linton, and the master called to me to see what was the matter, informed them that he wouldn't have the noise repeated. Very callous. Bronte is characterising Heathcliff as very callous. "Now, Catherine," he said, "how do you feel?" She was dumb. This is Heathcliff then, effectively taunts her about her feelings. She was dumb. "How do you feel, Catherine?" he repeated. "He's safe and I'm free," she answered. "I should feel well, but," she continued with a bitterness she couldn't conceal, "you have left me so long to struggle against death alone that I feel and see only death. I feel like death." And she looked like it too. I gave her a little wine. So Heathcliff's cruelty here. Hareton seemed a thought bothered, though he was more taken up with staring at Catherine than thinking of Linton. So I've accidentally effectively skipped where he dies. So Linton does die. He's dying and then he's dead. So he's dead here. And then I got a bit distracted by Hareton as often shown interest in Catherine as well, hasn't he here? Again, you could argue that this could be born of selfishness himself, because Hareton can see that Linton is dying, and you might think, well, he's starting to make a move here romantically because it suits him. He knows that Linton's dying and he's got an opportunity here. But if you're slightly more generously framed of mind, you might think instead, well, actually, maybe there's the innate goodness in Hareton is, that's where his concern is coming from. He's worried about Catherine, his genuine care, and you can decide yourself. I'm inclined to think that there's innate goodness in Hareton still, even though Heathcliff has tried to bring him up this way, and I think Bronte has a message in the novel about saying that, you know, people can have kind of innate goodness, and their upbringing it doesn't necessarily destroy that. And Heathcliff has got a kind of an innate badness, and I think that's another message of the novel, and that's a whole other big area you could go and explore. That let her be till after the funeral, and go up now and then to get her what is needed and is needful, and as soon as she seems better, tell me. So Heathcliff is showing no concern for his son, no concern for Catherine's feelings. He's just happy to let Linton die. Heathcliff went up once to show her Linton's will, so just to taunt her, he had bequeathed the whole of his and what had been her movable property to his father. The poor creature was threatened or coaxed into the act during her week's absence when his uncle died. The lands being a minor he could not meddle with. However, Mr. Heathcliff has claimed and kept them in his wife's right, and his also. I suppose legally, at any rate, Catherine, destitute of cash and friends, cannot disturb his possession. So because of the laws of the time, it's a patriarchal society. The law favours men. Heathcliff has manipulated his son's own will. He's intimidated him so that he's bequeathed everything. Upon Linton's death, Heathcliff owns everything and Catherine has nothing. And again, this is a real Gothic villain archetype, really. It's this typical behaviour of a Gothic villain where he's manipulated events, and he's now brought this innocent woman, Catherine, has been brought low. She's penniless. She is nothing. Because one way, that's because of the way the law works, but then an evil man, an evil villain like Heathcliff can exploit that and use it to his advantage, and he's now won the Gimmerton monopoly that I joked about earlier on. Don't write about it again. Gimmerton monopoly. Anyway, that's what's happened, or is about to happen. So as soon as she heard Heathcliff's horse trot off, she made her appearance, donned in black, and her yellow curls combed back behind her ears as plain as a Quaker. She couldn't comb them out. So her appearance is, she's looking very kind of serious and in grief as well, symbolising and really the imminent death of Linton. And as I've just been reviewing things, I thought, reaction for Catherine. So he's kind of he's moving in. He's moving in around, as Linton is dying, and then once Linton is actually dead, he seems to be showing more interest there in Catherine as well. So I thought, sorry about that. I don't think I really made it clear at the point he died, because I got a bit carried away with going down a different angle. But anyway, apologies if that was confusing. But we're in the right area, and yes, Linton Heathcliff is now dead. Heathcliff has got possession of everything as well. So that's for the funeral. And then we have, and I guess, by the way, he wanted to be presentable, so laughing as I durst not laugh when the master is by, offered to help him. So this is Hareton wanting to look smarter for Catherine, and it's Zillah says she'll help him with it, and she's laughing as well. Well, this reminds me of when Nellie helped out Heathcliff to present himself for Catherine that time when Edgar Linton and Isabella first came over to Wuthering Heights. Now, Mrs. Dean, Zillah went on, seeing me not pleased by a man, you happen to think your young lady too fine for Mr. Hareton, and happy you're right. By own, I should love well to bring her pride a peg lower. And what will her learning and her daintiness do for her now? She's as poor as you or I. Poor, I'll be bound. So she's got nothing. Remember, Catherine she's nothing, because Heathcliff owns everything that she may have had because of the way the law works. Then we have, there was a great advance to that. She didn't thank him. Still, he felt gratified she'd accepted his assistance and ventured to stand behind as she examined them, and even to stoop and point out what struck his fancy in certain old pictures that they contained. Nor was he daunted by the saucy style in which she jerked the page from his finger. So he is showing an interest there. There's also, I highlighted that because the theme of books and reading is important as well. So Hareton shows an interest there. She continued reading or seeking for something to read. His attention became by degrees quite centred in the study of her thick, silky curls. And I should have said as well, contextually, this is where Catherine is now settling into the lifestyle that we see at the start of the novel, and she's reading books and she's just keeping herself occupied as best she can. She's effectively a prisoner. Hareton is showing an interest in what she's looking at. He's showing an interest in her, really, as well, and then that's what's happening there. At last he proceeded from staring to touching. He put out his one hand and stroked one curl as gently as if it were a bird. He might have stuck a knife into her neck, and she started round in such a taking. "Get away this moment! How dare you touch me? Why are you stopping there?" she cried in a tone of disgust. "I can't enjoy you. I'll go upstairs again if you come near me." So, yes, their relationship isn't going particularly well here at this point, is it? So, again, Hareton, maybe he can't process emotions properly. He doesn't realise what he's doing. He doesn't understand boundaries, and he has been brought up badly by Heathcliff, so that might explain at least the context of what he's doing, really. He doesn't really understand how to show emotion and affection, or to be sympathetic to Catherine's own emotions. Then, Mr. Hareton, the whole set of you will be good enough to understand that I reject any pretence at kindness you have the hypocrisy to offer. I despise you and would have nothing to say to any of you. When I would have given my life for one kind word, even to see one of your faces, you all kept off. So that's how horrible everyone's been at Wuthering Heights. So Earnshaw, "What could I have done?" began Earnshaw. "How was I to blame?" So Hareton explains he did actually offer to help, but Heathcliff wouldn't actually let him. Then, ever since I've been as stiff as herself, and she has no lover or liker among us, so they all hate Catherine at Wuthering Heights. She does not deserve one, for let them say the least word to her, and she'll curl back without respect of anyone. She'll snap at the master himself, and as good as dares him to thrash her, and the more hurt she gets, the more venomous she grows. So really, though, Catherine is a victim. She's a prisoner, effectively. She does fight back. She does stand up for herself. So Bronte depicts her in that way, and I think there's kind of animal qualities here about it. Snap, and look at all the words here, like we've got the lexical choices like venomous as well, curl back without respect of anyone. There's an animal quality to that. Yeah, thrash, that's the one I was looking for just then, I couldn't see. At first, on hearing this account from Zillah, I determined to leave my situation, take a cottage and get Catherine to come and live with me. This again is like fantasy land, it's not going to happen. But Mr. Heathcliff would as soon permit that as he would set up Hareton in an independent house. And I can see no remedy at present unless she could marry again. And that scheme, it does not come within my province to arrange. So there's no one she could get her married off with. So we have thus ended Mrs. Dean's story. So Bronte really brings us right up to the present now. This is the current situation, and it's the bleakest it can get. So Catherine is trapped up there. There's no one to help her. She's got no support in the house. No one's helping her. Hareton does obviously show, he shows interest in her, and he kind of obviously showing affection towards her, and he's interested and admires her, but Catherine's not interested in any of that, understandably. And that's the situation we're in. Notwithstanding the doctor's prophecy, I am rapidly recovering strength, and though it be only the second week in January, I propose getting out on horseback in a day or two and riding over to Wuthering Heights to inform my landlord that I shall spend the next 6 months in London, and if he likes, he may look out for another tenant to take the place after October. I would not pass another winter here for much. So now, Lockwood as the frame narrator is now coming back into a more active part in the story. So it's all brought up to Bronte's brought it back up to the present, and this isn't now the story from Nellie. Next chapter is going to be Lockwood's continued time. Now he's better. He's going to go out to Wuthering Heights and say, "No, I don't want to stay here anymore." So anyway, thank you for listening to this one. Thank you for your patience. I've had a few little technical problems on this one. You may have noticed I've had to re-record sections and do more editing than usual. So I apologise if it's been slightly disrupted, but hopefully the message has got through and you've enjoyed that. And thank you. Don't let it put you off listening to the next one. We'll be on to chapter 31 And I hope you've enjoyed that. Have a good day or night, whatever you're doing. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment, etc., etc. Have a good one. Thank you again, and goodbye.